NFL preseason week 3, three-time champ Matt Chatham. I'm Sammy P. There's money to be made always, Matt, but not necessarily in the third preseason game. We'll get to that in a second. But first, I need your reaction. The quarterback prop is off the board at DraftKings. You could have bet Mac against Cam week number 1. Who's going to be the starter? Cam was a big favorite, and now it's off the board. The books are scared.
Yeah, I understand them getting a little spooked the sort of night after Mac Jones had just lit it up in practice, and there was a nervousness that, like, wait a minute, something has changed. But oddly enough, after they pull it, you get the next morning comments from Coach Belichick, and Belichick is like, he didn't violate any team rules. And they run out into the very first team period, and Cam leads it, and you're like, oh, well, maybe you would have wanted to take a little more action. So I just think the way it rolls right now is they're going to go with Bill's gut. And I don't actually think we're going to go with a game here where something new is going to be decided. I think it's over. I thought the competition door crept open just a little bit with this goofy news with the COVID sitting for Cam for a few days. But with Bill saying that's probably not going to change our valuation, he's paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing more of the tone and tenor. It was like, whatever. And then they got out to practice. So I think things will probably go forward. So if you bet an old bet that Cam would get week 1, you're probably going to be okay.
The game itself coming up this weekend, it's the Giants against the Patriots. New England opened about 4.5. It's been bet down to 3. We're seeing some sharp money on the Giants here. Maybe the Giants have more players playing longer than the Patriots do.
Could be. And I, full candor here, Sammy, I would be terrified to bet on this particular one. I would stay away from it personally because this is – the swing thing here is whether or not we're talking about a third like we used to think of a third, or a third that's really a fourth, or some new third that's like nothing we've ever seen before. In other words, are they going to sort of feel an urgency because they've got so few reps to really load this game up and do it, like an old third preseason game would? But there's also this other thing sort of yanking at the back of me that says, wait a minute, they've got 14 days between when this last thing happens and when they actually have to step on the field. So if you have that sense of, oh gosh, I haven't seen enough of my guys, we need to get some continuity, need to work with them more, and then you're going to make a wager based upon who you think these guys are, real team versus real team. I just don't think we're going to get that because of that extra week. I would say go head first into this thing if we're talking about, hey, it's going to be like your normal kind of deal with a 1-week game out in front of us, but we don't get that. So I think this is a brave new world. I think in next year's wagering, we'll learn what this last week means.
Surprised, by the way, to see the total go up 33.5 on the open, now 35.5 in this one.
Yeah, and it's creeping, but it's still creeping to a level that's a little lower than we saw last week. So they've learned that lesson in Patriots games a little bit, but yeah, I couldn't tell you what that's based upon. I mean, maybe there's a feeling that, if Cam is indeed going to hold this spot, but Mac is nipping at the heels, that you're going to get some long, into the third quarter kind of game for Mac Jones. But I still have this feeling that this is a really heavy eval game for like number 45 on the roster to 53. They've got important decisions to make, but it's less to do with the continuity of their starting unit. So who can ever tell what's going to go on with guys we haven't yet seen much of? But you might get a really high-level guy like Mac Jones leading those younger guys, and maybe that leads them to believe there's a score or two more there. Does Saquon Barkley actually get some time? And we just saw him on the practice field. Is Daniel Jones actually going to play? I mean, these things to me are all up in the air, and that's kind of why I would stay away from it.
Well, when you go 2-0 in the preseason, you can sit out, you can wait out game 3, but we do need to pick week number 1. Study up, huh?